Hey, so call me crazy, but I think the government might be lying to us about the Epstein Files. I don't know why, it's just a funny feeling I have, like members of our government might not be working in our best interests. Now, jokes aside, this is obviously something they've been trying to cover up since the very beginning, but recently it feels like they've gotten a bit more reckless. In the span of only a few days, multiple members of the US government have managed to not only confirm, but also deny the existence of the Epstein client list. According to the FBI and the DOJ, the Epstein client list was but a figment of our imagination. Yet, according to Jeffrey Epstein's best friend and neighbor, it does exist, but it was created by Democrats. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time explaining who Epstein was, or why the Epstein Files are some of the most important documents in history. If you're watching this video, I feel like you should already know the answer to both those questions.
Actually, there was supposed to be an Epstein joke here, but as it got deleted. Must have probably deleted itself, right? Probably never existed, actually. Let's move on as a country and ignore that.
To put it simply, Jeffrey Epstein is one of the most horrifying and disgusting individuals in American history. The Epstein Files likely incriminate dozens of government officials and people in positions of power across America. This means that the information kept within the Epstein Files could ruin a lot of careers and potentially even lives. So we probably shouldn't have been surprised when the same people who were incriminated by Epstein tried to erase the entire situation from history. According to a 2-page memo published by the FBI and the DOJ, the Epstein client list, which was used for years as a form of political propaganda, never actually existed. I guess you could say this came as pretty shocking news, considering many politicians had corroborated the existence of the Epstein Files and a client list for years. Our president was elected, at least partially based on a promise he made to release those documents. I mean, they've done photo shoots with them. Pam Bondi says she has a copy on her desk. Now, I don't think Pam Bondi's being completely honest, but I also don't think the Epstein Files are some mythical fucking creature, contrary to what Stephen King might want you to think.
Here I am, Wheezy.
Now, the FBI also claimed they'd be releasing unedited footage from outside of Jeffrey Epstein's cell. But surprise, surprise, the copy of the footage that was meant to be completely unaltered turned out to be edited on 3 separate occasions. Some people were even able to find out what software they used, and that up to 3 minutes of footage had been removed. If this is a cover-up, as many people suspect it may be, then they are doing a horrible job. They have somehow managed to put even more attention on the Epstein situation. Yet, of course, there were still plenty of people who didn't see this coming and fell for it. Now, you might call me a conspiracy theorist for this, but I really don't think they're being honest. They've been edging the release of this client list for years, and now suddenly it's just gone? I'm sorry, but I'm just not buying it. Either they're lying to us right now and saying the Epstein client list doesn't exist, when in fact it does, or they've been lying to us for years and saying it does exist when in reality it doesn't. No matter how you slice it, it still sounds really bad. Naturally, a lot of Americans found this pretty suspicious and started asking questions. And aside from Attorney General Pam Bondi, one of the first people they went to was Jeffrey Epstein's former best friend and neighbor. After all, if anybody could confirm or deny the existence of an Epstein client list, it would be the guy who promised to release the Epstein Files as part of his campaign.
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these, would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would
I
you,
did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
So when it really came down to it and people needed answers, they went to the guy who promised to have them. Instead, he opted to call the Epstein Files a boring hoax and blamed his supporters for falling for it. Of course, it didn't stop there though, as Trump's next decree was that the Democrats had created the Epstein Files to specifically incriminate him. This answer was pretty unsatisfactory, even for some of his most avid supporters.
Conservative influencers and activists have harshly criticized the president.
Total disaster the way Trump handled all this.
The young men and the Gen Z audience that I represent, they are flaming mad right now about this stuff.
Who is Trump protecting? Because he's clearly protecting someone. Is it himself?
Not only does he seem to suggest the Epstein Files exist, and possibly even a client list, but it also sounds like he believes his name might be in it. I guess it would have helped if the DOJ published their 2-page memo directly to Twitter. Now listen, as a transgender woman, I'm not a fan of Trump, but even I can tell when Trump's acting out of character or a little bit strange. He sounds very defensive, like he's preparing for an allegation that hasn't even been brought against him. I mean, not yet. He's already been convicted of 34 felonies, and I've got this funny feeling that number's only going to get bigger. Now, legally, I can't say anything for certain, but I feel like if there's an Epstein client list out there, his name is definitely on it. It seems the only thing that could really clear Trump's name in the court of public opinion at this point would be a full release of the Epstein Files. Something that many people within Trump's inner circle are pressuring him to do. A few days later, he took to Twitter once again, this time to continue his barrage of insults toward both supporters and members of his administration. This controversy has obviously sparked a lot of feedback from people across the nation, including Moist Critical and CoffeeZilla, who, between the two of them, have a pretty substantial following.
I'm sure all of you have seen this by now, but I have to yap about it. It is infuriating. New information just dropped from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. If you want to call it that. I don't think that nomenclature applies to this circus that's being performed here with all of this. It's a clown show. It's about as much of an investigation as Bozo investigating a pie that was thrown in his face.
Now, it's safe to say the government's been trying to do this for years, ever since Epstein was killed and they tried to say he did it himself. At the very least, it makes me wonder just how incriminating some of the information within the Epstein Files is. We've watched Donald Trump and other members of the US government work tirelessly to get their hands on the Epstein Files just to let them sit in the dark. Whatever damage they could do to their opponents seems to be mitigated by their sense of self-preservation. I think it's safe to assume that anyone who has the power to release these documents and chooses not to is probably incriminated by them. Now, please just release the Epstein Files. We have had 2 presidencies since Epstein Island. Even if that information doesn't exist, someone within the government needs to be held responsible for that level of negligence. The fact the government wants to try and pretend this didn't happen is kind of insane to me. You can't just tell us this stuff exists for 6 years and then one day just go, hey, you guys remember that whole Epstein situation? Yeah, turns out it never actually happened. We have photos, first-hand witnesses, and letters. We should have been demanding them to release this information from the get-go. If it doesn't happen within the next couple months, it might not happen at all. And we won't see any justice for what happened on that island. Naturally, this still prompted a lot of people to come to Donald Trump's defense, including sports commentator Stephen A. Smith, who decided to give his opinion that nobody asked for. He makes the weirdest argument that your Friday night should be infinitely more important than whatever happened on Epstein Island. Kinda weird, but okay, run it.
You're in an uproar off the Epstein list? That's all you've got? It's really, really surprising that this matters. Of course, I think there's a list, but I don't know. I suspect, but I have no knowledge, nor do I care. It's Friday night.
Oh shit, well if I would have known what day it is, what the fuck does that even mean? Yeah, Steven, I think people might be understandably concerned about who was on that island. Personally, I care a lot more about that list than how somebody throws a fucking ball. Speaking of which, Steven, why are you even talking about this?
I'm getting ready to go out and enjoy myself. I'm getting ready to have a nice weekend. I could give a damn about the Epstein client list. This has no effect on me whatsoever. I have a life. I don't understand for the life of me why this matters so much to these. I'm talking about people losing it. They're crying on camera. They're talking about resignations. They're pissed off about everything. I'm like, really?
You know how often I see videos of people breaking their TV over a football game or a basketball game? Do you know how many photos there are of people crying because their favorite team either won or lost? I want that to set in for you, Steven. It's totally normal for people to cry at a football game, but when we're talking about one of the biggest trafficking operations in American history, oh, suddenly we can't get emotional. Now, obviously, I still think he has a right to give his opinion on the situation. I just think this is a really, really stupid one.
I I didn't blame Trump one bit for looking at them and saying, really? That really matters to you? That's really that important? Now, maybe he had a different reason for saying it, trying to be evasive or whatever. I don't know. But I do know this. In the grand scheme of things, it ain't going to affect the lives of over 200 to 300 million Americans. I think we'll be just fine without knowing whether or not there was really a client list. I think we'll be okay.
Oh, Steven, how can I find a nice way of saying this? You talk about shit that doesn't matter to millions of Americans every day when you go into work. You'd probably be out of a job if people didn't care about the stuff that doesn't affect them. Not to mention, yeah, I think the Epstein Files would matter to a lot of Americans. It would almost certainly force dozens of politicians to resign and ruin the careers of just as many celebrities. Perhaps that's part of the reason you held this opinion to begin with. Now, I think the oddest part about this whole situation is why so many people who want us to stop talking about the Epstein Files keep bringing it up. The FBI, the DOJ, the President of the United States, Stephen Smith, and Stephen King? I am of the unfortunate opinion that if they had just kept quiet about the Epstein Files, this probably would have been forgotten. Between Donald Trump and other members of the US government, the American people had their hands full. Another 10 years of politicians just glossing over the Epstein Files, and it probably would have stopped being brought up. So why did the FBI and the DOJ release this now? Honestly, I don't have a clue. If any of you have any theories or thoughts of your own, please let me know in the comment section down below. I love seeing what you guys have to say. Anyways, I think that's all I really have to say on the subject right now. Hopefully the next time we talk about these files, it's when they're released. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. I try not to cover too much political content, but I thought this was pretty important to talk about. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See you in the next one. Bye. So, this was going to be the end of the video, but while I was editing, I actually found out that one of the women who stepped forward and called out Jeffrey Epstein for his behavior and some of the horrible things that happened actually took her own life a few months ago. Her name was Virginia, and by all accounts, she seemed like an incredibly courageous woman. She encouraged victims to step forward and speak out against Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. I think it's really important we remember her name because it stands as a testament to just how real this was. We might not even know this happened if it weren't for people like her.